Back to back. Okay. So got lost somewhere. No problem. Anyways, let's begin again. So there's a sefer from the Friedrich Rebbe called Sefer Mamer Yiddish. And these are Maimarim that are very unique. The Friedrich Rebbe wrote them when he came to America in the 1940s. The Second World War broke out. And one of the first things that the Friedrich Rebbe did was he created a Torah magazine called Akriya Bagdusha. And in those days, Torah magazines was really a novelty, something new. And this came out once a month. And in that magazine, the Friedrich Rebbe contributed by writing a Mamer. And he wrote it in Yiddish. The whole magazine was in Yiddish. And he wrote a Mamer. And these Maimarim, from Mamer to be in Yiddish is very unusual. And it means that the Rebbe wanted these Maimarim to be accessible to people that are not so knowledgeable. They don't know the Hebrew. They just know Yiddish. In those days, that was the language everyone spoke. And they should be able to understand the Mamer. The interesting thing was that as soon as the war ended, the magazine ended. So obviously it was something related to the war, and it lasted for 5 years. So they took each one of those Maimar and put it together in one book, and it's called Sefer Marim Yiddish in the Yiddish version. In the English version, it's called Hasidic Discourses from the previous Rebbe. And what you have here is the Hebrew version, because we're learning everything from the Hebrew. And I also have copies in English. I don't overwhelm you, but let's start with one at a time, because again, I don't have the forgot to bring the staple. So let me do the time. And when we get to page 2, we'll give that out. This is in English. Thank you. So the first, we'll look at the Chumash. Because Omer is going to this question explaining the pasuk. Here was this. So counter is a mitzvah midaraisa. Now things are different because we don't have the in English, but this is a mitzvah, and it's based on the pasuk in Pasmer. So this is the source, what you're reading here. Usfartem lachem, and you will count to you, Mimachras Shabbos, from day after Shabbos, from the day that you bring the Omer Hatnufa, korban that you have to. You will count Sheva Shabbos Tmima 7 complete weeks. And how long will you count it? Ad Mochas Shabbos Hashviyas, until after the 7th week. Altogether, you'll be counting Tisperu Chamishim Yayim 50 days. It happens to be Krafta Mincha Chadash Shel Hashem Yom Tov Shavuos. So that's the pasuk. Now let's do the Mamer. So the Mamer is in this pasuk was Lachem Machras Shabbos. You'll count from the day after Shabbos. When you bring this Omer that you lift, you'll count 7 complete weeks. Yesh lahavin. First question is, Ma'u hapirush amilu lachem. What does it mean you'll count to you? What does it mean to you? You will count. The Daimon Lakach, we find something similar. When it comes to the Esrog and the Lulav, it also says lachem. Well, lakachtem lachem b'yem harish, and you'll take to you on the first day. So the Gemara says, Sham pirush haminu lachem. What is the meaning of the word lachem to you? Shetikchum shalachem b'leimen hagezel. If a person steals a lulav from someone else, doesn't belong to him, besides the fact that you committed a sin of stealing, but this is a mitzvah that if you take someone else's lulav, you're not mekayim the mitzvah because it's not yours. And what's the source? Because it says lachem, it must be yours. There's another place where it says lachem. Take that. And let me see if I have another copy. Yes. Yeah. Another place where it says lachem, gam b'shmini atzeres ksiv, b'yoyim hashmini atzeres ti lachem. The 8th day of Sukkot is a yontif, and it says also b'yoyim hashmini on the 8th day atzeres ti lachem. It's a yontif to you. What does it say to you? Shama kavana, over there the intention is that the yontif is shmini atzeres, and the korbanos that they bring on that day is something which is exclusive to the year. That the korbanos not only they brought 70 bulls as a korban. In other words, there was a certain order, interesting order, that the first day they brought 13, the second day they brought 11, the fourth day 10, the fifth day 9, the sixth day 8, and the seventh day 7. Altogether, it adds up to 70. Why? This was to bring a bracha to the 70 nations of the world. And the Gemara says that if the 70 nations of the world would realize and understand what brought to them, and they would appreciate it so much, not only they would have destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, they would have actually set up legions of soldiers to protect the Beis Hamikdash, because it brought them tremendous brachas. So that means that the 7 days of Medrash Kosev, the Medrash gives a mashal. Mashal lebnei hamedish hayomim shiva yom. Big feast for all the people in the country, like Achashverosh. Big. That's for 7 days. Well, but after the 7 days, he turns to his friend, who is a very close, intimate friend, and he says to him, now, after I honored and I catered to all the people of my country, now me and you, 2 close friends, let's celebrate together. And that's the party that they're having alone. No one else is part of that. And the same is with Shmini Atzeres. Hashem says the 7 days of Sukkot I was celebrating with all the nations of the world that I created. But on the 8th day is just me and you. So now we know why it says lachem when it comes to Sukkot, Lulav and Esrog. We know why it says lachem when it says Shmini Atzeres lachem. But why does it say lachem by Sefirat HaOmer? Avo b'mitzvah Sefirat HaOmer. When it comes to counting the Omer, ma pirush hamila lachem. What is the meaning of the word lachem? How could you count Sfira and it's not lachem? What do you mean? To you or not to you? You count. So obviously there must be another way of counting, and that's considered not to you. To the extent the Torah has to caution us and make it clear to us, Sfira, I don't think is the other way, it has to be lachem. Why he repeats it again, I don't know. But again, to reinforce the question, when it comes to Lulav and Esrog, there's a need to caution us with the word lachem, to know Lulav Esrog tzichem liyas mishalachem has to belong to you. V'gam b'shmini atzeres lachem mahabe hirosh hakarbonos. It also teaches us a lesson that the karbonos of Shmini Atzeres shoinim are different from the karbonos of the previous days. It's possible that kiyum mitzvahs, well, now top of page 155, kiyum mitzvahs the loy lachem, being that you could observe the mitzvah without lachem, Was lo yikima mitzvahs kviya kavanas yisbarach, but the mitzvah won't be the way Hashem wants it. A person could possibly not differentiate between the carbon on this 8th day and the carbonas of the other 7, and just say, okay, this is just an 8th day. So the word lechem, shemavata b'diuk, tells us precisely how you have to do the mitzvah this way, not that way. When it comes to counting the Omer, it can be, there's no such thing as accounting is not to you. You are counting, so that's to you. That's the way you do the mitzvah. You have to count and pronounce it verbally. What is the purpose of the word? What is the intention of the Torah by adding the word lachem? We must say, Shekashem Shamila Lachem, just like the word Lachem that's written by Lulav and Shmini Atzeres. Mavhira, it makes it clear how to observe the mitzvah, how to do the karbanos of Shmini Atzeres. There's Oif and Kiyam mitzvah Lulav Esrog. Gam Lachem, Shamitzvah Sfir Seimer, the Lachem of Sfir Seimer also makes it clear how to do the mitzvah and not to do it the other way. So the Gemara says like this. It means every person individually should count the Omer. What could have been a different way? Mitzvah Sefirat HaOmer einay doima lemitzvah shel minyan hashanim shel Shemitah v'Yovel. There's another counting. We count 7 years to know when is Shemitah. On the 7th year, we have to rest. It's a sabbatical year. We also count 50 years to know when it's Yovel, because the 50th year has certain halachas, just like the 7th year has halachas. Who counts? Over there it says like this, Sefirat HaOmer Sheva Shabbos Shonim, and you should count 7 years. Shabbos in this context means a year, 7 yearly cycles. Shebezdin tzarich lisper shnas hashmit v'Yovel. There's no mitzvah for every individual to count and say, today's the 1st year, today's the 2nd year. The Bezdin, they keep count. But Sefirat HaOmer is different. Shekol echad tzarech lisper. Every individual has to count. And this is the source of the halacha that if you travel over the date line, which means if someone from America would now travel to Australia, not today, would travel to Australia, there's a shaila in halacha. How does he work with Sefirat HaOmer? The people in Australia are counting, today is the 9th day of the Omer. In Australia, they're counting today the 10th. So I count the 9th or the 10th. So the halacha is, because it says lachem, you have to count as an individual. You don't go by the community. So today, if you use the 9th, and the end of the day, and the end of the counting is the real problem. When it comes to Shavuos, it's supposed to be the 50th day. When they have the 50th day in Australia, for me, it's the 49th day. So I'm going to be adding another day while everybody is counting. By me, it's not Shavuos yet. And which means that you're allowed to do malacha. A man has to put on tefillin. You're not allowed to do it publicly. And when people do this, when going from here to Australia, from Australia back to America, they usually look for more people. And they have a minyan, they make their own minyan. They daven a different davening than the rest of the shul. Wow. And they do things different.
You did it.
What?
You did it.
We didn't do it because the Rebbe sent us to Australia before Pesach. And those who go after Pesach, there was a group that went after Pesach, those people, to avoid this problem, because it's not so simple, there's a big halachic controversy about it, they go through Eretz Yisrael. So then they're not going to pass the date line straight. They don't lose a day. When you go to Australia directly, you lose a day if you go there, and you gain a day when you come back. So the word lechem, now we have to understand why is it important that every individual has to count it. Why can't this also be like the counting of Shemitah and Yovel? It's a general counting that the community keeps count. Who's the community? The Bezdin. They represent the community. That's one question. That comes with another question. The MS, No, but Neisef, in addition to this question, we have to understand what does it mean when it says you should count the day after Shabbos? What's the connection between Shabbos and counting the Omer? What is the question? These words, Machas Shabbos, are also very controversial. As you know, there was a group in the times of the second Beis Hamikdash that were called Tzedukim. And the Tzedukim only believed in the written Torah and they didn't believe in the oral Torah. When do we start counting the Omer? No. What? After the first day of what? Of Yom Tov. Not after Shabbos. But in the Chumash it says you start counting after Shabbos. So the Tzedukim do not start counting Sefirat HaOmer from the second day of Yom Tov. They start counting from Shabbos. For example, this year, actually we would be the same because it's Shabbos and the second day is Sunday, right? But let's say it would be on a Monday, Tuesday. So they will wait until Shabbos, and then after Shabbos, on Sunday, they'll start counting. Well, what do we do? The Chachamim, the oral Torah, explained that in this context, Shabbos is not Shabbos, but it means Yom Tov, because it's also a day of rest. But the question is, if Hashem wants to say Yom Tov, why does he use the word Shabbos? So obviously there must be a reason, there must be a connection between Sefirat HaOmer and Shabbos, and that's why the Torah calls Yom Tov Shabbos. And that's the question, what's the connection between Shabbos and counting the Omer? These are two separate things. But when the Torah says count after Shabbos, it's as if Shabbos is a prerequisite. You need Shabbos first, and then you can count the Omer. Why is Shabbos a prerequisite that leads you into the counting of the Omer? Another question. By the way, anyone know what the word Omer means? What? I didn't hear what you said. Barley. It's made of barley.
We don't know how to say it in English.
What?
We don't know how to say it in English.
I can go like this.
Yes. Like a bouquet, but
Actually, Omer is a measurement. But in the Torah, in the pasuk that I showed you before, it says Omer hatnufa, you lift it. So the question is, what is this thing about lifting? It always mentions the Omer that's lifted. So you're supposed to lift it in a certain way. And why is it called Omer hatnufa? Because it is very, you don't do the name of the korban. I know we spoke about this many times when it says in Sharich and Amuna that so if the name of this korban became Omer HaTnufa, it means korban. Now another question. Ma'u pirush hamidim tmi. It says it should be complete. Then there's 7 complete weeks. Why does the Torah have to add? The deeper meaning of counting the Omer. What is the simple reason for counting the Omer? Alpi Nigla. The simple reason is it says when Hashem told the Yidden they're going out of Mitzrayim, receiving Torah, they got about receiving the Torah. And it was so anticipating something very big to happen. And he knows it's going to be in a week, and 2 weeks, and 3 weeks. They check off the calendar every day. So many days left, so many days left. So the Yidden was so excited, they counted the Omer. So we too also count the days from now until receiving the Torah. But there's a deeper meaning according to Chassidus. What is that deeper meaning? So now he's going to explain. What is the Sefirat HaOmer avodah? In obviously, it's something about the way we serve Hashem. It's an avodah. So first it starts off, Korban HaOmer, Hayim Esa'orim. The Korban HaOmer was made from barley. Shem Chamishas, the Chamishas Minadogan. There's 5 kinds of grain, and one of them is barley. But the other times, in other words, we know there's carbonas that are from meat, from an animal. This carbon was made from, not from something that grows, from tzemeach. And which kind of thing, it has to be barley. Whenever other places in the Torah, there's a carbon that's made, called the carbon mincha. It's made from something that grows, not from an animal. In that case, it's usually chitim, which is wheat. Shechitim, what's the difference between barley and wheat? So the Gemara says, chitim he meichel adam. Generally speaking, wheat is considered food for humans, and sa'orim and barley is meichel behema. Is generally speaking food for behema, for animals. So say the Korban HaOmer, who this order of the Korban HaOmer, shekol aveda b'kesher leimer tzrich aliyos mishuleshes. Everything regarding the Omer has to be done in a way that it involves 3. Everything is with the number 3. Shalosh soim, the measurement is 3 sa, tfua triya of this grain, and it's to be put into shlosha salim shoinim, 3 separate baskets. Makim es hashibolim, the koilim es hatfua b'kli miyuchid, she'esh takev. They have to prepare the stalks of barley, and in a way they do it with fire, and then they grind it. They grind the garinim, the seeds, menapim, and they have to lift it. They have to sift it with 13 sift 13 times. We call garini hatful leichem rak yisar. So what does that mean? This is the way it's practiced, and he's going to explain all the details in Avodas Michael Behema. That means this carbon is the food that's consumed by an animal and not by humans. And the reason for this is because ba'adam yesh adam behema. By a person, we all consist of 2 neshamas. We have a nefesh elokis, which is called adam, and we have a nefesh bahamis, which is called behema. I mean, there's more questions here, which he doesn't bring in this Mamer, it brings in other Maimarim. But the purpose of 7 weeks is to elevate our personality and prepare for the Torah. And why 7? Why shouldn't there be 10? There's 10 spheres. We should work on the Chachma, the Bina, the Das. It should be 10 weeks.
Maybe it's working on the 7 needles, which is mainly tricky to understand.
Very good. That is the answer. The answer is that being that the purpose here is to elevate Nefesh Bahamis, that even though the Nefesh has emotion, but the emotion is there to enhance its intellect. It does everything according to Seichel, what's everything that's pleasure. Yes, it has intellect. that these 10 plagues really consisted of smaller plagues. So altogether, there wasn't 10. One opinion says there was 40. Another opinion says there were 50. And that was in Mitzrayim. And by the sea, there was another 5 times as many plagues. 250 plagues. Each plague was godliness being revealed, something supernatural happening, and Hashem is destroying evil, and it's right in front of their eyes. And then they came to the Yam Suf, and that was clearly godliness being revealed, as we know that it says that what the Yidden witnessed by Kriyas Yam Suf was they saw godliness so clear and so open in such a way that even the greatest Nevi'im, the prophets of the future, didn't experience what they experienced. So they saw godliness in an open way. And by the way, this is after they got the Torah already. So the Torah, they saw godliness in an open way. And therefore, the Nefesh Elokis didn't need to be lifted. It was already soaring through the high heavens from everything that happened. But the Nefesh Bahamis wasn't really affected by that. In other words, when godliness is revealed, it affects mainly the godly soul, not the animal soul. If you have someone that you invite to your house for Shabbos meal, and they come to the Shabbos meal, and after the meal, they're like, wow, this was an amazing experience, unbelievable. What was the amazing experience? Usually you think, oh, wow, the challah was very soft, the fish was delicious, the Rebbitzin was very warm and nice to them. It's all nice and fine. Usually it's not enough of a reason to make a 180-degree turn in my life. What inspired them like that? The answer is Shabbos is a holy day. They took part of this holiness. So the Nefesh Elokis got fired up. If a person goes to the kotel and they become inspired and they become emotional and they feel connect, it's the Nefesh Elokis. Nefesh of Bahamis, we said this many times, doesn't respond to godliness being revealed. It doesn't connect. It's like this thing we're looking at right now on the desk in front of me. I think it's working now. It's called a what do they call it? Tablet. So the way it works, you can't. What if you take a glass and put it down in front of you? How come it wouldn't do the same thing? There's a whole mechanism. It's connected to satellite, which means there's something here that because of that something, that piece of technology, it responds to what's going on. But if I would take a beautiful glass, very nicely decorated, 1,000,000 colors, green, blue, yellow, we'll make them all match. And such a design you haven't seen in your life. And it's expensive glass. We'll take crystal or whatever, you won't see a thing. Why not? Because it doesn't have the mechanism to pick that up. The godly soul is godly. So it has the mechanism to respond to godliness. The Nefesh of Bahamis is a behemoth, and therefore it doesn't respond to godliness. So what happens to Nefesh of Bahamis? So the truth is it doesn't respond. Is lifted and is on fire. On fire, therefore, because of that reason, the Nefesh Bahamis is lifted together with the Nefesh Elokis. It's like a person, for example, that jumps very high. Who's jumping, the person or the clothes that they're wearing? But the clothes also goes up. How does that happen? So the answer is because I am in my clothes. So when I go up, my clothes go up with me. The Nefesh Elokis is in the Nefesh Bahamis. So the Nefesh Elokis goes up and has fire. Nefesh Bahamis also is lifted. But the Nefesh Bahamis is not rising on its own. It's rising because Nefesh Elokis. So therefore, because we prepare the whole Hashem wanted the generation to be Matan Torah, not just the Nefesh Elokis, also Nefesh Bahamis. For that reason, he designated these 7 weeks. These are 7 weeks to work on refining the animal soul now. The Nefesh Elokis is in a good. Now let's refine the animal that rise in its own right, not just because the Nefesh Elokis is rising. So being that these 7 weeks we're focusing on the emotion, when Nefesh Bahamis, that's why it's about emotion. Now that we brought this korban, we start counting the Omer, which is 7 weeks. Sfira achas b'chol shavua. Each week is designated for one sfira, being that we have 7 emotional character traits, and these 7 include everything else. So therefore, each week is for one. But we repeat 7 times, not really repeating. Hakavana, the intention is the Sheva Hasfira Shebachol Sfira, that we're elevating the 7 spheres that are in each one of the 7. So as we know that we do the first day, which is Chesed, so we're doing Chesed of Chesed and Gvura of Chesed and Tiferes of Chesed. Today, for example, is Gvura. Week. Yesterday before was Chesed of Gvura, and today is Gvura Shabbat.
Chesed, that like Chesed Shabbat, and when it's a week of work, let's say. So.
Well, that's why I chose this Mamer. This Mamer is unique and explains this detail. What is Chesed Shabbat Gvura? What is Gvura Shabbat Gvura? These 2 examples, but from this we can understand how it applies to all the other spheres.
So why, when it's like the big Chesed, so let's say like Tiferes Shabbat Chesed, this Chesed, and not Chesed Shabbat Gvura, Chesed Shabbat Chesed. It's a week of Chesed.
Right. So, generally speaking, what we're going to learn is like this. We'll soon see it inside, but just that you have some idea, is that the general need is Chesed. For example, when you translate Chesed in terms of emotional attributes, Chesed would mean, let's say, love for Hashem. Because I love Hashem, I also very much don't like things that are not ethical, not moral, not godly. I hate killing and stealing and all these negative things, right? But why do I hate it? Because it's not godly, and I love Hashem. So if I love Hashem, I hate everything that goes against Hashem. In other words, let's say a mother loves her child, and then there's someone who's bullying her child, and she's angry at that person. Why is she angry at that person? Because they're bullying the child that she loves. So it means the love for the child is chesed shebechesed. She loves her child, so she hugs the child, she kisses the child, she gives the child gifts, she smiles to him. The bully, she's angry at this person, she screams at the person. That's gevura. But the gevura is a result of chesed. Because I love my child, that's why I'm against what you're doing. So because I love Hashem, that's why I hate things that are klipa. And that's the way all the spheres go. Which means the opposite would be that the actual sphere is a sphere of gevura. I'm in a mode of gevura. And because of my gevura, I do something which is chesed. So we need to find an example of what that is. You probably all know that there's a booklet that was given out by Rabbi Jacobson. We bought a bunch of copies here for the library. And it has every single day practical examples of what's chesed shebegvura, what's gvura shebegvura, and what's netzach shebechesed, hoyt shebechesed. It goes through all 49 practical things that he gives his own examples, but it's all based on what it says in Hasidus, what this means. But this Mamer is actually going to explain how do we define when we refer to one midah as it's included in the other midah. And another thing, being that we're elevating the nefesh bahamis, and of course, it's through the Nefesh Elokis. So the thing must apply to both the Nefesh Habamis and the Nefesh Elokis. He's going to explain what would be Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, and all the midas by the Nefesh Elokis, and what would they mean by the Nefesh Bahamis. I'll give 2 examples to be continued, and hopefully for tomorrow we'll have more copies here. Okay.